Flann O'Brien's novel, The Third Policeman, was a big influence on my novel, Icarus Transfigured. The protagonist in his story is a petty criminal, and he's also writing a dissertation on a dead, obscure philosopher. Over the course of his strange journey, we are privy to his notes in the form of footnotes. As his story develops, these notes become longer and more detailed, taking up whole pages. It is part of the experience to be sucked into this metaphysical horror by degrees, and it is unnerving when it is done with Irish humor. Dark, understated humor is a literary delicacy. I grew up reading New Yorker cartoons, including Charles Addams. I am also a fan of Edward Gorey, as I have all three of his collected works. Edward Gorey is known for his macabre, understated Victorian sense of humor. Wit is a dish best served cold, like a dead body. The more absurd it is turning up on your doorstep, the more decorum and detachment is needed in making it seem expected and not out of the ordinary.
Dear Grasshopper, Napoleon once said there is one step from the sublime to the ridiculous. With insight, the latter works most profoundly in reverse. Self-contradiction is thought to be an impediment to clear thinking, yet Whitman got it right when he justified his contradiction by claiming he contained multitudes. Contradiction, for its own sake, is an unimaginative inversion of unimaginative thinking. But as a high art, it is a rejection of the inert substance of truth for its creative spirit. Absurdity, too, is regarded with suspicion, although it was Emerson who, in poets' terms, referred to wild and unfettered creation as speaking with the flower of the mind. Wittgenstein told us, similarly, never stay up on the barren heights of cleverness, but come down into the green valleys of silliness. Blessed is the man who embraces contradiction and absurdity, in the best sense, for eternal youth shall be his reward. Blessed is the man who endlessly reinvents himself and his opinions, for he shall lose the whole world to gain his soul.
The Two-Legged Easel, excerpts from Daedalus Monet's autobiography. My father was born near an electric blender, an expensive one with many arbitrary high-speed settings. It startled him on more than one occasion as he lay sleeping in his crib. Later he was told, and had no reason to doubt the validity of it, that electric blenders were not yet invented at the time of his birth, and it was impossible that one should have startled him. On reflection, he believed what he experienced in childhood was a premonition foreshadowing his death by electricity. Though a cautious man all his life, he was killed by ball lightning on a Tuesday. His curse has become mine, and I dare say his fate. Naturally, I too take precautions, and have maintained a lifelong distance between all forms of electricity and myself. All except static electricity, which I keep in my closet among my sweaters and have rare cause to provoke. The circumstance of my nursery shaped my early development. Its floor ran at a slight incline away from my play area. My toys were forever rolling away from me, and, as a consequence, I grew up believing I was not intended to keep much in the way of material possessions. This gave me a predisposition to Marxist politics as a young man. I have since dispensed with these views in favor of pouch tobacco and gymnastics that can be restricted to a small portable mat. My interest in painting is a product of an accidental education. A narcoleptic farmer, sans arms,
gave me a box of paints following his misadventure with farm equipment. Having cultivated few social skills as an idler with no ambitions, I had no one to give them to, so kept them. I would describe my painting style as unexpected, like finding a billfold on the sidewalk. If you were to open it in hopes of pocketing money, you would be disappointed. Still, there would be several names and addresses on hand if you should be in need of a hot meal or a place to shower.
The Two-Legged Easel. Excerpts from Daedalus Monet's autobiography. Most people take colors for granted, yet their peculiar nature is easily demonstrated. If one were obliged to describe the experience of green in language, one encounters a tautology. Green is green. It is the color of tree leaves. Tree leaves are green in color. One can explain green in terms of other greens, or light waves, or almost being blue, but none of this makes sense to a person whose only experience of the world is in shades of gray. That one experiences green is true, but to call it a shade of gray is a lesser truth bordering on outright falsehood. No apt words touch its beauty, but it is true even if it cannot be talked about. Wittgenstein told us the unsayable alone has genuine value. And yet, when does the color green become teal? In logic, one finds the paradox of Socrates, which is where one concept indeterminably becomes another. That is, where the color green, little by little, becomes the color teal. Though both ideas, green and teal, are readily graspable as facts, the fixed point where one begins and another ends does not exist. If the devil dwells in the details, then it is in the unfinished business of in-between. The Two-Legged Easel. Excerpts from Daedalus Monet's autobiography. There is a window in my house where an angel abides. Encounters with this entity take the form of remembrances. One might liken this arrangement to living with an absentee boarder who only occasionally comes to mind when you find hair in the sink or chairs moved impractically close to doors. Sometimes this angel seeks to gain my attention by throwing items out its window. Vague remembrances mostly. A hat lost to me in a windstorm. A half-eaten sandwich I did not care for and threw away. Pencils, short useless ones. Discarded socks with fatigued elastic supports. These are trite memories, to be sure, but no detail is inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Every recollection is the recollection of that which time cannot demolish or dim. The Two-Legged Easel. Excerpt from Daedalus Monet's autobiography. Candlelight brings that most ancient part of the mind bubbling to the surface of skin. In the evening, when others retreat into the sphere of incandescent bulbs, I rejoin the campfire that stared down the first night of creation. Hours are longer there, edgier. They invite words to name things out of fear as much as a desire to possess. I recall the first time I saw the shadow of my member making mischief on the candlelit bedroom wall, and how it frightened me. Having been liberated from its lair, it was no longer content to stay put. I have since met it in the kitchen, where pointy-ended cutlery was no deterrent to its swagger. It is difficult to have company in the house because of its behavior. Things do tend to go bump in the night.
I have even received complaints from neighbors who report seeing my member's shadow looming in the window curtains, and on occasions when I've been out of town. The simple fact is this: the further we venture from our campsite, the more madness we see in fires. For what was a frank and first-hand acquaintance with instinct early on has become a rare and hazardous encounter with a brute.